Um, I just want to say on my behalf, that we can't ignore this any longer. That's why we're so happy to participate in this today. We have a moral obligation to the future to leave them a healthier planet. Just like our parents and grandparents handed us a better planet, we need to be responsible stewards for where we live. I grew up here in Santa Fe, and these mountains were my playground. A lot of times I always go, oh, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to do. I go, the Rocky Mountains start here and run for 1,000 miles. There's plenty to do, But we're feeling it now in Santa Fe. Extreme weather conditions, I was just telling Ron, we hit 102 here in June in Santa Fe. For the first 50 plus years of my life, we never got over 96 degrees here in Santa Fe. And now it's not unusual to hit 100 in Santa Fe. So we have the droughts. We're in the third year of a drought. Wildfires, heat waves, and recent flooding. And I was just in Parral, Mexico, and they're having the same types of weather. They flooded about 6 different villages and the Chihuahua airport while we were down there. Recent forest fires burning in northern New Mexico. We're not close to the city of Santa Fe this year. However, it already is affecting our economy. Jody can tell you, and our CVB director can tell you, and every hotel in town can tell you, all the calls, is Santa Fe on fire? Is it safe to go there? Is there smoke in the air? So it's affecting our economy right now. And a city that prides itself on having the best air quality in the United States is having to deal with more and more smoky days from these fires. So people are questioning what's going on in Santa Fe, what's going on in New Mexico, and so are we. And we know we don't want to affect our economy with this, and we're working hard to get the message out that it's still beautiful here, but we're working to, we need to work harder to keep it that way. Our economy is built around tourism, so camping, hiking, and other recreational opportunities are a big draw. But we recently had to close the Santa Fe National Forest, and that's played a major role. I had a friend visiting me from graduate school, hadn't seen her in 30 years. She lives on the East Coast. I kept saying, come to Santa Fe, come to Santa Fe, come to Santa Fe. She gets to Santa Fe and the forest is closed, And those are things that we know didn't used to happen in our community. So we know it's changing. So, I hope that the I Will Act on Climate Change bus tour will help further the discussion on climate change and bring attention to this critically important issue. It's not just our tourists, it's not just our economy, it's who we are, it's what's going to be for future generations, for our children and our grandchildren. And anybody from Santa Fe can tell you we think in terms of 6 or 7 generations out. What's going to be the effect for those folks that are coming after us. So we've got to do this. We've got to bring this attention, and the attention has to lead to more action. Santa Fe has moved to 20% of our municipal power supply is now generated with solar energy. But we can move faster, and we need to move faster. And whatever the regulatory or other types of obstacles are in our way, we need to get them out of the way, and we need to move faster for the sake of our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, and for this fantastic landscape that we've lived in for more than 400 years now.
Collected Works Bookstore first opened its doors 35 years ago in 1978. In 1978, there were no giant chain stores. There was no Amazon.com, and the hottest day all year in Santa Fe was 95 degrees. Things have changed. Like most downtown Santa Fe businesses, Collected Works relies heavily on the tourists who come here for the many things that Santa Fe has to offer: the architecture, the history, the art, the culture, the food, and the environment that gave birth to all of these things. They come for the light. Henry Schuckman wrote an article about Santa Fe for the New York Times in 2007 in which he wrote, "That light, the cottonwood filtered sunlight of the morning, the thick, orange, juicy light of the evening, is one reason why Santa Fe seems to exert such power over both the people who live there and the ones who return year after year." An article in The Atlantic this month opens, "If you doubt that climate change is transforming the American landscape, go to Santa Fe, New Mexico. Sweltering temperatures there have broken records this summer, and a seemingly permanent orange haze of smoke hangs in the air from multiple wildfires. Our famed light is disappearing, but it's not just fires that have affected us. We've also lost sales because of delivery delays caused by climate changes across the country. Planes grounded in Phoenix due to extreme temperatures, devastating tornadoes across the Midwest, crippling floods and snowstorms on the East Coast. For businesses like Collected Works Bookstore that survive by offering superior customer service, superstorms are now a bigger concern than superstores." Collected Works has joined the Santa Fe Green Chamber of Commerce, an organization of businesses that are addressing these issues on a local level. And I urge Santa Fe businesses to join the Santa Fe Green Chamber of Commerce and help the fight for businesses in Santa Fe. But although I'm here today as a business owner, I'm more importantly here as a mother. My 3-year-old son doesn't yet know what we've done to this planet. He and his generation deserve to enjoy the same New Mexico that Henry Schuckman wrote about, the New Mexico that O'Keeffe painted, the New Mexico that has inspired countless writers, artists, photographers, and travelers. Instead, he's growing up in a time of unprecedented ecological disaster. This June alone, the New Mexico Department of Health issued 3 separate smoke advisories for our area and 1 extreme heat advisory. People, especially children and the elderly, are now regularly being advised to stay indoors. We can't afford to ignore the impact of climate change. This isn't a political issue, it's a human issue. And we need to work together to protect Santa Fe, New Mexico, and the entire planet for the future.
Well, I wanted to thank everyone for being here today. This is a great event. I have a lot of memories in that building over there.
Some of them good.
Some of them are good. But I have a lot of memories. That's the important thing. And I'm very excited to be here and see so many friends that I've worked with in the past and look forward to working with you in the future. And as you were reminiscing about how things have changed in New Mexico, one of the things that first came to my mind was when the fires took place up on the Baldy. One of the first experiences that I had of northern New Mexico, being that I was born, I'm a native New Mexican from Hobbs, New Mexico. But one of the first experiences I had was going up to Baldy on a horseback ride and camping up there when I was about 7 years old and fishing up there. And now to think what everything looks up there now from the photographs that I've seen is a devastating thought. And you can look at case after case after case as you look at the region that I'm fortunate to work in and represent, whether you look at the tornadoes in Oklahoma, whether you look at some of the hurricane activity down on the coast of Louisiana and Texas, you look at the forest fires here in New Mexico, in Arizona, outside of our region, and up in Colorado. And it starts to build a very, very strong case as to why we're here today and why we all need to act locally on climate change. Gina McCarthy, who's the new administrator for EPA. Yeah, I'll go along with that. Gina McCarthy, who is the new administrator for EPA, has many words of wisdom that you'll be hearing over the next several years. But I think one of the most important things that she has said to myself and to a number of people at EPA that really applies to what we're here today about is that she said EPA is not the only place that the American citizens should go or expect to go to find environmental protection. You find environmental protection through state governments, you find environmental protection through county governments, through municipalities, through NGOs, and through the private sector. And if you look around at the crowd we've got today, you've got that statement manifesting itself with the group of people that we have here today. The EPA is here to collaborate, but you folks are the ones that are going to really change things when you act on climate. And it's so important to keep that in mind as you go forward. Gina has that. She knows it. She's worked in many state agencies, and she's worked for Democrat and Republican executives in her career. But she wants us all to understand that, and it's important for EPA to understand that part, because we have to be able to collaborate and find solutions that work for climate. Gina, in her term as administrator, is going to focus on climate change with all the many things that we have happening at EPA. But that is the premier thing that she will spend her time on. As we come back to New Mexico and to Santa Fe, I think of some of the results of fires, as the chief was talking about. Go up here on the side of the hills and look at the reservoir that we have up there for drinking water here in Santa Fe. And you have to always be concerned about the ease that contaminants can get into that reservoir because of fires. So it's not just what goes up in the air, it's what goes into our water as a result of a forest fire that we have to be constantly aware of. In Dallas, where I work, I have talked frequently to the people there. David Gray is here with me, who's Director of External Affairs, and one of the first trips that he and I took was to Louisiana. And we got caught in a rainstorm between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And we've joked that I hadn't seen rain so long, this was like in October of last year, that I was willing to get out of the car and stand in the rain along the interstate just to talk, just to feel the sense of rain. So one of the messages that I've talked about is that New Mexico's drought, which leads the nation, and the impacts of drought, which we all have to be concerned about, is so important. You look at the annual amount of rain in Albuquerque, which sometimes runs as much as 8.5 inches a year, and in the last 12 months, up until this recent monsoon in the last few weeks, Albuquerque experienced only about 4.9 inches of rain. And then you look at the effect of how that affects places like Elephant Butte Reservoir and its total capacity, not just the amount of water that's in the lake, but its total capacity to hold water is dropping because of the drought and the reasons that have caused the drought. So I'm going to review just real quickly here as we look at the president's campaign on the climate. He wants to continue this momentum as we go into the future that we're going to start here today by cutting carbon pollution from power plants, by building a 21st century transportation sector. You know, we passed the rail runner coming up here this morning, which I'm very proud of because it came apart during the Richardson administration, and it's important not only to the environment, but it's important to the economy of this town. I love the rail runner. And we need to challenge the way we use energy, using less dirty energy, using more clean energy, wasting less energy through our economy, by reducing methane and hydrofluorocarbons, by preparing the United States for the impacts of climate change, and by leading international efforts on climate change. But this all brings us back to why we're here today, and what Gina McCarthy has said, is that EPA is not the only place that you can find environmental protection, nor should it be that case. Look around at our audience, look at the private sector, all the way up through state government and to the federal government. We all have a role to play, and the role that you play here today is much bigger than any role that EPA will play. So I want to thank you for inviting me. I'm excited about this whole effort that we're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to move the ship in a way that we can tell our children that we did something to protect their future. Thank you very much.